This is an ADC warning. The crimes you're about to see are true. Only the names were changed to protect the ignorant. Tonight on America's Dumbest Criminals, a guy who graduated from the School of Hard Knocks, a chef with a recipe for arrest, and a drug bust with a twist. These are just a few of America's Dumbest Criminals. Hi, and welcome. I'm Daniel Butler. You know, there's a reason that we changed the names of the criminals that you see on this show. It is our sincere belief and hope that many of them have realized their mistakes and discovered that being a criminal just doesn't pay. They deserve a second chance. But there are some people who need protection from themselves. They need to be members of the Witless Protection Program, which we offer here on America's Dumbest Criminals. Our first story comes to us from Captain Mike Coppage, an explosive situation where a man had doused himself and everything in his house with gasoline.
The SWAT team was several blocks away waiting to deploy, and our initial response team, which was our negotiators, they had gone up and surrounded the house and had started trying some kind of dialogue, you know, gathering information and everything.
Come on out, Ronnie. We can work this out. It'll be all right.
No, man! Forget it! I drenched this house with gas and this whole place is gonna blow!
Ronnie, wait! Wait, Ronnie, now just slow down. Ronnie, there is always hope. So let's talk.
Oh, shut up, man! I've talked all I'm gonna talk! I'm ending this now!
Ronnie, wait! Ronnie! Wait, Ronnie!
There was a tense silence. The captain was ready to give the SWAT team the signal to go in. Then,
Hey, copper!
What is it, Ronnie?
You got a match?
You see a match? What'd you say, Ronnie?
Matches, man! I left my matches in the pickup truck. Can you go get them?
Sure, Ronnie. You can get your matches.
Get down! Get on the ground, sir! Get on the ground! Put your hands behind your back!
I just was not prepared. I guess preparedness would be the key on that one. So.
watch now as Officer Chip Simmons of the Pensacola Police Department reduces a dumb criminal's rock-solid story to rubble.
A couple years ago, I was working in the narcotics unit as a narcotic investigator. And what we would do on occasion was we'd go through these hot spots to where they would have, you know, we have a lot of drug activity, a lot of complaints about drug activity. A lot of these places were behind local nightclubs. Well, on this date, we hit some of these locations, and as we hit one of them, the entire unit jumped out of a van, and we ran and stopped some people.
Do not resist. Come on, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything, man. I didn't do anything. Oh, yeah? What's this, huh?
We found some cocaine on this one individual, but he didn't have any identification on him, and we were trying, you know, we tried for 20 minutes trying to figure out who this guy is. He kept giving us one name, and then he'd change it a little bit, and he'd give us an address, and he'd change it a little bit. But he always had a story, you know, or a reason for why he changed it, and what, you know, some kind of excuse for what the name problem that we would confront him with. So I figured I would test him. So I asked him again where he lived. He said something like 100 Johnson Avenue. I again thought that he was being so smug about having this address already in his mind that I would test him with that. And I asked him, you know, is that blue house on Johnson? He said, yeah, that's the blue house, the big blue one. I said, the one with the white car always parked there? Yeah, that's it, thinking that he's, you know, he's got me. So I figured I'd further test him because, you know, I still didn't believe him. And I finally confronted him. I said, nope, that can't be your house. I know who lives in that house. I said, that's the Rubble's residence. I said, that can't be yours. And he looked at me strange, And so I realized he didn't get it. So I said, yeah, Barney and Betty Rubble live there. You can't live there. And he thought for a second, he looked kind of confused.
I bought that house from them about a month ago.
Eventually, we found out what his real name was. It wasn't Fred Flintstone, and he didn't buy the house from the Rubbles, and he was arrested. So.
The Yabba Dabba Dude was sentenced to hard labor on the bedrock pile. In Decatur, Illinois, it's against the law to drive without a steering wheel. So if you don't have a steering wheel, you can just slide right on by Decatur. And now, actual surveillance cam footage of a crooked cook giving gourmet lessons to 2 undercover officers. Now it's time once again for Cooking with Chef Crack. Today, Chef Crack has been invited by these 2 undercover narcotics officers to cook up some crack cocaine in their basement on video. Chef Crack doesn't know he's being videotaped as he gathers together the fine ingredients. First of all, you need a Ziploc baggie of a controlled substance, water, oregano, thyme, and an ashtray. Now, Chef Crack will lightly simmer the whole concoction. Then he checks it to see if it's done. Nope. You'll need to simmer just a few moments more. Now, you can do this in an electric range, a gas stove, or just use the cigarette lighter in your pocket. Now, be sure to add more water, because there's nothing worse than burnt crack. Well, that's all the time we have for this week on Cooking with Chef Crack. Unfortunately, Chef Crack will not be seen next week because the first show played in court. If you'd like to write to Chef Crack, just contact him at Chef Crack, State Pen, in care of the kitchen, where he'll be serving up goulash for the next 15 years. Coming up next on America's Dumbest Criminals, a story of homegrown stupidity. In our next story, Officer Scott McDonald weeds out a dumb criminal.
I had information this guy was growing marijuana in his house. We couldn't get any probable cause to obtain a search warrant, so we went and just was going to try to knock on his door and see if we could get consent to search.
How you doing?
Fine.
We received information you're a cultivator of marijuana. We'd like to come in and take a look.
I ain't no cultivator.
Okay,
I said, well, do you mind if we come in and search? He said, no, I don't mind. So he signed the consent to search.
Come on in.
As quickly as the intensive search began, it ended.
Hey, what's this in here?
Workout room.
We just walked through. I went to the first bedroom, opened the closet, and he had marijuana growing in there. And a incubator with the lights on it and everything.
Well, what's this?
Marijuana.
I said, I thought you said you weren't cultivating marijuana. And we were videotaping the whole time. He's standing in front of the video camera and he said,
Well, I ain't no cultivator. I'm a Presbyterian.
The officers explained that cultivator was not a religious term, but the man was indignant, and he still insisted.
He says, oh, I'm not a cultivator. I'm just some guy that got some marijuana growing in his house. So,
ADC quiz number 211. The people in Concepcion, Peru were shocked when a man stole 2 chickens. Why? Was it because A, it was the first crime since 1762, B, chicken stealing was a capital offense, or C, there was only 1 chicken living in Concepcion at the time? The correct answer was A, it was the first crime since 1762, probably because the punishment for chicken stealing was a Peruvian torture treatment we now call a perm. And now, actual surveillance cam footage of a man who breaks into a retail shopping center and overlooks some important details of his disguise. We call it Mall in a Day's Work. Okay, this burglar uses a bag for a disguise. Not bad, but the eye holes are way too small, so he crashes into the first thing he comes to, a burglar alarm on display. Now he peers around the store, but he realizes the eye holes just aren't working, so he retreats. only to come back moments later with bigger eye holes and a flashlight. Now he's getting around great. But he forgot one thing. He's wearing his mall guard security pants. He was identified later as the mall guard on duty at the time. And now, inside the courtroom for trial and error. A woman had her purse snatched, but her assailants were apprehended. Now it was time to identify them, and she was scared.
Are the two men who committed this horrible crime present in the courtroom?
Here, present.
And now, the funny story of a smash and grab artist who keeps himself in stitches. Sergeant Jim Claiborne told us about the blockhead who came face to face with crushing justice.
Okay, we were working with an informant on a burglary stakeout, convenience store that had been hit quite a number of times in the city, smash and grab operations where they'd take a block and throw it through the window and go in and steal all the cigarettes. A gentleman came up to the front of the store with a cinder block, and since the store had been broken into a number of times, they'd replaced a lot of the large windows in front other than with glass, with plexiglass. He flung a cinder block against what he thought was one of the glass windows, which turned out to be one of the plexiglass windows.
This criminal gives new meaning to the term blockhead.
He had to have a few stitches. He went to the hospital before he went to jail.
Okay, 4 of the windows were glass, so he had a chance, which is more than we can say for this guy. Coming up on America's Dumbest Criminals. Next, we go to Officer Gordon Martinez in Las Vegas, who met a dumb criminal he just had to agree with.
I used to be a motorcycle police officer, and I had pulled over this individual who was speeding southbound on Jones from Charleston. He was doing, I believe, about 50 miles an hour in a 35-mile-per-hour zone. I got him on radar, pulled him over. He immediately exited his vehicle, and I was in full uniform on my police motorcycle, and he immediately just came out of the car and says, "Well, my life is over." I said, "Well, basically, I think you're kind of just pushing this thing all out of proportion. All you're doing is speeding." He goes, "No, you don't seem to understand." And I go, "Well, try me. I'm open." He says, "I'm finished. My life is over. You might as well shoot me right now." I go, "Whoa." I said, "Well, just tell me what's happened. Let's start out with the basics. Let me see your driver's license, registration, and insurance form." "I don't have a driver's license." "Well, you just forgot it?" Or he goes, "No, it's revoked." "Oh, that's bad." "All right, how about the registration?" "Don't have that either." "Well, you just don't have the certificate, or what?" He goes, "No, the vehicle's unregistered." I go, "It is. It looks like you have valid plates on the car." "The plates don't belong on the car." "Looks like you got a valid sticker." "The sticker's not mine either." "I suppose insurance is out of the question." "Right." I says, "Okay. The car is stolen. The plates are stolen. He's driving on a revoked driver's license for DUI. No insurance, and obviously no registration." I confirmed with him his life was over, as he knew it.
You know, it's true. People will do some pretty dumb things when they know they're in front of a camera. But they do even dumber things when they don't know, especially when it's a surveillance camera. So let's watch the actual surveillance camera tape of a case we call the nightcrawler. This crawling lady hid in a back room until the store had closed to do her shopping at a 5-finger discount. Now, she's smart enough to stay down and not be seen through the windows, but too dumb to look up at the camera in plain sight. The lady was apprehended the next morning when the owners came in. They called the exterminator, who sprayed for nightcrawlers and then installed a nice 1-bedroom nightcrawler motel. In South Carolina, it used to be against the law to sell whiskey at night or on a cloudy day. When the law was repealed, they made up for all those cloudy days. This next story came to us from Detective Chris Stewart. We put it in our book, we put it in our home video, and we liked it so much, we're bringing it back. Because, folks, it just doesn't get much dumber than this.
Well, we had a, what we call here a 1017 armed robbery report that went out in the center part of town. Of course, I make reference that there was a girl working at a convenience store, a pretty girl working at a convenience store on one side, and there was a restaurant that gives half price to the police on the other side, so this guy didn't have a prayer. I mean, there were cops everywhere, so. We had a reported armed robbery that took place. The officers responded to the scene. The dispatcher took the information over the telephone of a description of the suspect. Searching a wide area, one of the marked units found found a suspect that they believe fit the description. So I went to the location, myself and another detective, and we felt also that the guy fit the description of the armed robbery suspect. So I told the officers that we needed to take him back for ID purposes, for identification purposes. Called over the radio to have the unit that was at the scene have her stand by, have the victim stand by, because we needed to bring somebody back for identification. Now, what happens is if you catch someone within a reasonable time after they commit a crime, you take them back for what they call a one-on-one show-up. So that the victim can actually look at someone and say that is him or is not him.
Okay, Carmen, now the suspect's about to step out of the car, and I want you to tell me if this is the man that robbed you.
When we got back to the scene and had him step out of the car, the suspect did just exactly as he was told. He stepped from the vehicle, he faced the victim, and he said,
"Yes, sir. That's her. That's the woman I robbed."
I don't believe that. Have a seat, have a seat.
So we went from there. She didn't get a chance to say a word. She identified him later, but his initial statement kind of threw everybody off.
Welcome back to America's Dumbest Criminals. Pay close attention as Officer Glenn Biggs has a brief encounter with a dumb criminal.
A guy in custody for narcotics violations. Took him in, started to do the arrest report, and got his name, address, and I asked him, I said, "What's your DOB?" He said, "What's that?" I said, "When's your birthday?" He said, "May 5th. I said, "What year?" He said, "Every year, man."
All right, you've seen what happens when you make the wrong choice. You will screw up, you will get caught, and you will feel really dumb. So be smart, make the right choice, don't break the law. And we won't see you on America's Dumbest Criminals. You know, we couldn't have done this show without the cooperation of the men and women of law enforcement across America. We'd like to thank them for their time, their dedication, and for making our lives a lot safer. And we learned that cops are just people too, with one exception. They're willing to lay down their lives for us.